Right now, the National Weather Desk, as more severe weather threatens the nation today, communities from Florida to Pennsylvania are still cleaning up from destructive weather.
Notice how the bush is being pushed this way, but the shed was tossed that way.
Will cutbacks of the nation's premier science agency impact forecasting during hurricane season?
Pushing the Weather Service just trying to get this life-saving information out there.
The steps one state is taking to help people know when the pollen count is soaring.
What the pollen levels are, and you can even look at the specific pollens that you're allergic to.
Hear from two moms of what it was like to parent young children during Hurricane Helene.
Months before he could walk outside and not say, is it safe?
And what Texas is doing right now to prepare for this summer's wildfire season.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. The threat of severe weather is once again on the menu this Tuesday, and once again Texas is in the bullseye. The Storm Prediction Center issued a 3 out of 5 risk for severe thunderstorms in East Texas, including Round Rock and also College Station. Major cities like Dallas, Houston, and Austin face a slightly lower risk. The storms could produce severe wind gusts, very large hail, and strong tornadoes. Portions of the Northeast also face storms that could produce hail, so pay attention to weather throughout the day. South Florida is one place that saw severe weather yesterday. Golf ball-sized hail fell across the West Palm Beach area. The storm also brought heavy rain and wind gusts that topped 50 miles an hour. That rain was important because the region is under an extreme drought after going through the 5th driest April on record. A day earlier, storms uprooted a massive tree, sending it crashing into a home and a brand new car in Miami. Crews spent much of Monday cleaning up the damage. An arborist said flooding was likely to blame, saying the roots probably were not grabbing because there was so much water on the ground. No one was hurt. A small tornado struck central Pennsylvania on Sunday. It was on the ground for just 500 feet. So how did teams from the National Weather Service determine it was a tornado and not straight line winds? Meteorologist Ed Russo shows us the evidence a twister touched down.
If you look behind me, that is a shed that was tossed from its foundation over here to my right. So it was lifted, tossed into the tree. You can see all of the insulation in that pine tree there. National Weather Service did confirm that this was in fact a tornado, just 500 feet in length. Wasn't on the ground very long, but obviously did quite a bit of damage. Want to bring you over here because notice how the bush is being pushed this way, but the shed was tossed that way. So that tells me that over this area where I'm standing, we had twisting winds like that since things are falling over in different directions. And down here, if you look in the distance there, there's a playground that was lifted and tossed onto its side, and it looks like another shed was damaged. So again, basically from the road to that point by the power line, that's how long this tornado was on the ground. Again, just 500 feet. And notice the patio furniture still remains standing. The bushes over here still remain standing, but yet not too far away we had a shed that was just completely blown into a tree. So this is a classic example of what tornadoes can do. You know, it destroys one little area and then the very next area completely untouched.
Much of the severe weather we are seeing right now is due to a weather pattern known as Omega Block. Its name comes from the fact that it looks similar to the Greek letter omega. Meteorologist Katie Morgan posted about it on TikTok. Take a look.
An omega block is a real weather pattern. Doesn't happen all that often, but when it does, it can put part of the country in a rut. So here's what it looks like. It's an area of high pressure that is bookended by 2 areas of low pressure. The folks in the high pressure see warmer than average temperatures and nice and sunny weather. The opposite is true for those under the low pressure systems. Cloudy conditions below average temperatures, and these weather conditions can persist for days. So there you go. Now you know a new weather term.
The Omega Block.
The Atlantic hurricane season officially begins in less than a month, and some experts say NOAA is understaffed. Several current and former agency meteorologists say they're concerned life-saving warnings are not going to be issued in time. Ivan Rodriguez has more.
Andy Hazelton is a hurricane hunter who was working out of the National Hurricane Center in Miami.
We're not really doing policy for the most part. We're just, especially in the Weather Service, just trying to get this life-saving information out there.
He's flown into the eye of the storm countless times, including Hurricanes Helene, Dorian, and Ian.
You basically fly through the storm 3 to 4 times, and then the forecasters are getting that data in real time. They're using that for their advisories to tell people, hey, this is where the storm is, this is how strong it is.
But now he's out of that job. He was one of hundreds of employees at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, whose roles were terminated as part of the Trump administration's efforts to slim down the federal government.
We're already understaffed, and this is just going to be an even further blow on top of that.
The National Weather Service is headed into hurricane season with 30 of its 122 weather forecast offices lacking their most experienced official, known as the meteorologist in charge. These include offices covering New York City, Cleveland, Houston, and Tampa.
It's a job that gets very, very busy whenever there's active weather, and you're responsible for keeping an eye on everything. When you don't have that position filled, you're basically asking other members of the management team to step up and do those things. And when the weather is getting very active, it's very hard to keep up with that.
Further cuts to NOAA are in the works, though the NWS may not suffer the brunt of that next round, according to internal federal documents.
In the Pacific Northwest, dry, warm spring weather is causing a lot of misery for people who suffer from seasonal allergies. Tree pollen count is already very high, and peak grass pollen season is just around the corner. Meteorologist Stella Sun tells us why the Washington Department of Health is now building a pollen surveillance network.
Spring showers bring May flowers.
It no longer feels like it could be a fake spring.
The natural beauty and lush greenery of the Pacific Northwest is why many choose to live here. But a trade-off for views like this, plentiful pollen.
There's definitely a larger amount of pollen than we've seen compared to normal.
Compared to 30 years ago, the Department of Health says pollen season in Washington is starting almost 3 weeks earlier and lasting about a month longer.
Well, I've noticed since the weather's getting nicer, this one will not stop having a runny nose, like at all.
Good job! A longer pollen season is why DOH is building a pollen surveillance system to help people who suffer from seasonal allergies by providing real-time pollen detection information.
And our pollen monitors are continually monitoring pollen levels so we can see how much they vary during a day.
There are 10 pollen surveillance sites across the state collecting data.
And you can find all that data with the PollenWise app. All of our monitors push data to the PollenWise app. And you can go look at what the pollen levels are, and you can even look at the specific pollens that you're allergic to.
Warmer temperatures, changes in rainfall patterns, and more carbon dioxide in the air are climate impacts that are driving the earlier and longer pollen season, according to DOH.
A college student from Tennessee was rescued over the weekend after he became stuck in a cave 3 miles from the surface. It took crews 9 hours to get him out. Ja'Kai Spikes shows us what happened.
This viewer video shows the Hamilton County Rescue Team heading to Sparta, Tennessee to help with the rescue from this cave. Captain Brandon Powers says a Vanderbilt student was on an overnight research trip but couldn't make it out of a Blue Spring cave because he got sick. At first, rescuers thought they would need to carry the student out on this makeshift bed called a sked, but eventually he was able to walk and crawl out on his own.
At some point, the cave becomes very small, and there's this one section of the cave that's a little over 2,000 feet of crawling.
These pictures from the Sparta Rescue Team's Facebook shows a sign that says cross suspension bridge at your own risk. This video from a cave explorer shows what it's like going in.
And we crawl and we crawl and we crawl.
We were there every step of the way with him, moving through the cave passage. And at no point were there any issues with panic or any type of uncontrolled circumstance.
According to National Speleological Cave Files, Blue Spring is the longest mapped cave in the state, and it's over 38 miles long. The rescue team was able to make contact with the patient in 3 miles, and it took about 2 hours.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk is expected to be a long, hot, and dry summer in Texas. We'll find out what officials are doing to prepare for wildfires, and we'll help you better understand the dangers of rip currents.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Welcome back. I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans. In Central Texas, officials are trying to get ahead of the game because they're expecting a long, hot, and dry summer. That's why they're urging residents to do all they can to prevent wildfires. Vinny Martirano has more.
Wildfires have burned millions of acres of Texas land in recent years, destroying fields, homes, and lives. One of the most recent is the Crabapple Fire in Gillespie County, which burned more than 10,000 acres back in March.
2011, actually, I think, was this region's LA.
That year, 30,000 wildfires scorched nearly 4 million acres. Texas hadn't seen that level of wildfire damage until last year, when 5,000 wildfires burned more than 1.3 million acres. May is National Wildfire Awareness Month. There's a few simple ways that you could protect your home.
Cleaning your gutters, removing tree limbs from your roof, and keeping grass and landscaping trimmed to prevent fuels for a wildfire.
Embers from a fire can travel 1.5 miles away. It's important to cover those small spaces in your home to prevent embers from starting fires.
Cover the vents and attic spaces and other openings with 1/8 of an inch mesh to protect your structure against any type of fire.
It's getting warmer, which means more beach time is on the horizon, but danger in the water can lurk behind the fun in the form of rip currents. Mary Grace Armistead spoke with experts to find out how dangerous they can be and how to stay safe if you ever get caught in one.
A rip current is an underwater river pulling you away from shore. The team partners with the National Weather Service to monitor wave patterns and swells, constantly surveying the surf for signs of rip current activity. Emerald Isle Fire and Ocean Rescue Chief William Mathias showed me what they look out for when patrolling the waters.
Your periods of waves coming in, you can see your white water here, and then you're seeing some wave face build there, and you're seeing a little bit more over here, but you're kind of seeing it get knocked down right there. You really don't see that wave face right there, do you?
Chief Mathias says it's the calm spots that can be the most deceptive, and Emerald Isle lifeguards showed us how tiring it can be to swim through one.
So it's a little tiring, especially I didn't swim probably far enough out of the rip current. I'm a little tired from swimming in, but you definitely feel a little pool, and you want to make sure you swim far enough where you're not feeling that pool as you're still coming back in.
Chief Mathias says rescuers will often use the rip current itself to help reach a swimmer in distress.
And for people that potentially maybe not showing a significant amount, maybe they're a little bit worried in the water, hair in their face, you see them start to bob like apples in the water, unfortunately. And then when they're in that true emergency state, you're going to see them climbing this imaginary ladder, oftentimes slapping in the water.
The #1 rule for swimmers: don't panic. Mathias says panic is what leads to the most fatalities. Data also shows that many rescues and most fatalities involve visitors who are unfamiliar with conditions in the area.
You want to point out there's a few swimmers out there. They don't look like they're in a rip current right now, but I've been watching them for the past 5-10 minutes, because you never know. One could form, could pull them out further. Once they get off that sandbar, there's no touching. So.
Chief Mathias says they spend a lot of time informing both locals and out-of-town visitors to ensure everyone knows what to look out for and how to stay safe.
It's birdwatching season, and in Wisconsin, the return of an endangered shorebird species is creating a lot of excitement in the birding community. Eric Peterson has more from Green Bay.
It's the beginning of piping plover nesting season in Lower Green Bay. We have 5 birds back on site. One of the birds that's returned is who we've referred to as Miss Packer. That's because of green and yellow bands on her legs, and we're really, really happy that she's returned.
Audubon Great Lakes, Wisconsin Conservation Manager Tom Prestby says Ms. Packer nested here since 2019 and over the years has produced 10 fledged chicks. But last April, Ms. Packer arrived, but then disappeared.
We thought that she was gone, either from a predator or just died from natural causes. So she's back now, which is awesome.
Banding is a long-time tool used within wildlife management.
U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service biologist Jade Arneson says Ms. Packer has a yellow band on her left leg and 2 green bands on her right.
Most of our birds within the Great Lakes population are banded. So we're able to learn about the age of those individuals, their survivorship from year to year, their breeding success, which of course is really important to document in terms of recovering a federally endangered species.
Meanwhile, Tom Prestby says Ms. Packer is getting ready to nest.
We're really hopeful. We're coming off a record-breaking year last year when there were 81 pairs in the Great Lakes, so we're looking to build on that this year.
When Hurricane Helene moved onshore last September, Western North Carolina was particularly hit hard. This week, in honor of Mother's Day, Emily Gracie spoke to 2 anchors at our station in Asheville to hear what it was like parenting through weeks without power and clean water.
Even our meteorologists knew it was going to be bad and catastrophic, but they couldn't have even predicted just how terrible it was going to be. And I think one of the biggest things was the loss of infrastructure right away. I mean, I don't think people realize the interstates in 3 directions were washed out. We had no water. We had no cell service for weeks.
How did you prepare your family for this?
I think that a lot of people did things like we think about when we get high wind events or rain events, like put away your patio furniture, clean out your gutters. What we probably should have been doing, and I'll be honest with you, is stocking up on non-perishable food and water and having, you've seen those like battery packs where you can charge your cell phone. It forced a lot of people to get Starlink, believe it or not, which is a satellite internet system. Now people are better prepared here in Western North Carolina than they were beforehand.
What was the kids' reaction to all of this? Did they think it was an adventure? Were they upset?
I hate to say this because I don't want to think about our kids being traumatized, but I think it was a pretty scary situation for River. I do. I think the whole thing. And in fact,
a tree fell on your house.
A tree fell on our house. That was really upsetting for her, as you might imagine. You know, even to this day, when you drive around certain parts of Asheville, it's destroyed. And I just think the whole thing was really, I think it was tough. I think it continues to be tough. We still talk about the hurricane. It's still brought up.
Our youngest, I mean, it was months before he could walk outside and not say, is it safe? My husband and I mean, we're trying to figure out, do we leave town? Do we have enough food? How do we get water? We're talking about these things and, you don't want to hide it from your children, but you also don't want to alarm them, of course. So trying to explain to them that we're safe, it's going to be okay. But also we're like, are we okay? How is this going to play out?
Karen and Katie learned the hard way that they were unprepared for natural disaster. But this week on our podcast, they are sharing what you can do right now to prepare your own family. Listen to Off the Radar anywhere you get your podcast. And as we head into break, we leave you with views from Coney Island in New York.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
It's severe weather season, but what exactly is a severe thunderstorm and how are they measured? To find out, let's take a look at a recent TikTok post from meteorologist Amanda Verrier.
Not all thunderstorms are created equally, and that's because some can be severe while others are not. But what's the difference? Let's get into it. For a thunderstorm to reach severe criteria, you need at least one or all of these. 1 inch hail or greater, winds gusting at 58 miles per hour or higher, or a tornado. What you may not have known is there are different categories for severe thunderstorms. Now, the baseline is that 1 inch hail or 58 mile per hour winds, considerable 70 mile per hour winds or higher, or golf ball sized hail or higher. Destructive, that's the one that'll ping your phone with an alert. That's 80 plus mile per hour winds or baseball sized hail.
We'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back.